Good evening and welcome to the Arundel Camera Club meeting for Thursday, October 12th. My name is John Milliker and I'm the club president for the 2023-2024 season. The Arundel Camera Club was founded in 1957 and exists to promote the arts, science, and education in all aspects and fields of photography. For more information about us, please visit arundelcameraclub.org. If you are local to the area and Arundel County, Maryland, we encourage you to visit us here at the Severna Park Baptist Church. That is at 506 Benfield Road, Severna Park, Maryland. Before we move to tonight's contest, do we have any announcements from officers? Anyone? Bueller? No? No announcements. Okay. Well, before I turn it over to Christine, this is our first digital, is this our first digital contest? Second digital contest, but kind of using our normal mixer and setup and everything, so I'm hoping everything goes well for that. But let's bring Christine up, our programs chair, to talk about the upcoming schedule. Then we'll turn it over to our contest chair, Ron. Come on over here, and then we'll get you introduced to the judge. Here you go.
Good evening and welcome. Our upcoming schedule next week on October 19th, we have our own Ryan Maurer doing a program on cave photography. On October 21st, we have a field trip to the Fire Museum of Maryland for the Lantern Night. On October 26th is our next Prince contest with the theme also of flowers. On November 2nd, we have Matthew Hansen doing a program on food photography. And on November 9th, we have our next digital contest with the theme of open. November 16th, we have our own Fred Venetia doing a program on portrait photography. And then November 18th is a field trip to the Conowingo Dam for the Eagles. That's all I have for upcoming events. Just for people who are here, there's some photo equipment here on the corner that someone has left and asked that we find new homes for. So if you're interested in any of it, go ahead and grab it and take it. Ron, let me give this to you so you can introduce our judge.
All right. Is this one working here?
Oh, here's working.
So,
this is for him.
Okay,
Sorry.
good.
Thank you.
All right. Gives me a chance to get up on my feet for a minute. So good. Well, I'm thrilled to have to announce to you that Pete Morton's going to be our judge this evening. Now, you didn't get to see Pete in person last year, and Pete, do you remember the theme from last year?
I don't, but I also judged in person, I think, 2 or 3 years ago.
Right, that would be correct. So, and whenever he said he figured out he was 10 minutes away from the church, which is not true, but he agreed to come in this evening. So that makes it a whole lot easier, and I'm sure you're willing to talk to folks after the contest as well. So flowers has been an interesting topic for us because it's brought a whole lot of entries. It's one of the biggest contests I think we've had at this point. So Pete's, just a refresher, if you don't remember from his last visit here, photography is absolutely his passion. We've spent a lot of time on video Zoom meetings and things like that with MPA. He's very active with MPA. He's an MPA certified judge. He enjoys both capturing images and processing them with Photoshop. So he's had a lot of experience with that, as you'll find out when we start going through the images. He has lectured on digital photography in Cornwall, England. He taught advanced Photoshop to professional photographers in London as well. He's a director for the Silver Spring Camera Club. He's also very active in the Photographic Society of America, PSA, where he leads a photography study group and selects photographers for the monthly Digital Dialogue Showcase. He has received numerous awards, both local and international. He has been recognized by his club as the Photographer of the Year. And I know that club has got a lot of tough competition, so that's no small feat. His work was hung in the Maryland State House. And again, he's certified as an MPA photographer, judge, and a critiquer. So now, is there something that you want to mention that I did not?
It's a long drive when there's an accident on I-95.
Our apologies. We'll make better arrangements for that the next time.
No, that's fine. At least it wasn't me in the accident.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got quite a few images in both categories this time, so I'll shut up and I'll let John get the get the feed started and we'll take a look at what we got.
So before we start, let me say just a couple of words about how I judge. In the novice category, I really like creativity. In flower photography, it's difficult to be unique. It's hard to be different, but I count that significantly. The other thing that I feel is very important is that everybody, especially, judges as well as everyone else, have biases. And I've done all that I know how to do to eliminate my biases, but what I'm giving are really, my evaluations are simply my opinions. And so I really urge you to, evaluate my evaluations and accept those that you agree with, because the opinions that matter are really yours. And so with that, shall we start?
Okay. All right, our first image is triplets.
And I like the idea of the...
Are we going to go through the...
Yeah, we'll go through all of them, Pete.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is the fast
This is a
pass
fast
through?
pass, yes, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Panning, number 2. Number 3, flowers in winter. Number 4, Portland bouquet. Number 5, blue bloom. Number 6, saucer magnolia flower after the rain. Number 7, sunflower bud. Number 8, Portland rose. Number 9, top view. Number 10, don't touch my baby. Number 11, the king. Number 12, yellow and red. Number 13, first cherry blossom. 14, lupines, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Number 15, black BW flower 3. Number 16, tulips. Number 17, BW flower 1. Number 18, sweet smelling. Number 19, pretty in pink. Number 20, flower box. Number 21, another use for wheelbarrow. Number 22, blooming. Number 23, it's a Gerber. It says Gerbera.
Yeah, it's sometimes.
Okay. All right, 24, first bloom of spring. 25, purple passion. 26, fringed tulip. And by the way, John calibrated the screen, so it should be in pretty good shape for tonight. And John, will the image number show with these as we go, or?
I'll try to make that happen.
Okay, if not, we can work with it, because when the colors of the flowers change, then usually the titles do too. So, because this will be the feedback and
Sure.
in and out. And we're looking for 26 images. We're looking for 1 through 4 and 3 honorable mentions.
No, that's not it. It's been so long, I don't remember what the setting is to get on that.
Well, we can work with this if that's easier.
Is it development? No, we'll have to work with this.
Okay. There we are. So I love the idea of the 3 irises, and I think that their color is magnificent. The photographer did an excellent job in deciding to keep some foliage in the background. I think that helps provide context, which you don't often think you need, but you really do even for flowers. A couple of things that I would consider, I find the position of the flowers a bit static, particularly the top 2. It would be very nice if the top 2 were staggered a bit so that we had sort of a diagonal line between the top 2 and the bottom one as well. You might also consider slightly blurring the background, which is not terribly difficult to do these days, but it's a beautifully seen group of flowers and excellent focus on the flowers themselves. And that's not easy when you're taking three different flowers, since you've got to keep them in the same plane of focus to get the sharpness that you achieved. Let's take that one out.
Okay, number 1 is out.
Get in here. View. Where's my little view? Turn it. All right, that one's out.
Just tag it red.
Panning is this one.
And panning is a great idea, and you don't often see panning of flowers, and the orange in this is truly spectacular. I think the concept of doing this pan was really clever. I like the fact that you didn't do it as either a vertical pan or a pure horizontal pan, but actually included some diagonal. One of the things that I find difficult is that I find this actually kind of hard to look at because I'm not sure where I'm supposed to focus. My eyes keep drifting around the whole image, which makes it somewhat difficult to appreciate. But very original, and I like that. But let's take this one out.
Okay, number 2 is out. Number 3 is flowers in winter.
Very nice. The background, the colors, I think the muted colors in this really work well together. I also think that the winter flowers do well with that background. When I looked at these on my own screen, it appeared that there might be a bit of noise, but it was hard to tell. Nonetheless, I think that it's a very cleverly done image. One of the things that I would consider if I were the photographer is that the portion of flowers that are on the very, very bottom, almost the center, it's a little distracting to have them cut off by the frame of the image. It would be probably a good idea to try removing that lowest portion of the flower. But let's keep this in.
Okay. Number 3 is in. Number 4, Portland bouquet.
Wow. Talk about being blown away by the colors. This is rather spectacular. The the arrangement of the colors and the flowers in the vase is just magnificent. A couple of things that I find that make it difficult for me to continue. This is not one that I would find restful on my wall at home. One is that the colors actually seem a bit oversaturated. I would also like to see a little more of the vase that they're in to kind of give them an anchor and give them context. The only other suggestion that I would have is that the top of the flower arrangement is right up against the top of the frame, and it needs a little more headroom. But a very good idea and spectacular flowers. But let's take this one out.
Okay, number 4 is out. Number 5 is Blue Bloom.
Wow. I love complementary colors, and there are 3 colors in this one that really work nicely together. And the position of the flower within the frame is well done. The center of the flower is clearly what grabs my attention and holds my vision. I find that the focus appears to be on the left petal edge and the nearest orange portions of the flower. It would be very nice if the center of the flower completely were in focus. It wouldn't bother me if the blue petals faded out of focus in the background. But I like the idea. The colors are spectacular, and let's keep this one in.
Okay. Number 5 is in. Number 6, saucer magnolia flower after the rain.
Magnolias are astounding, and this, I think, doing it in monochrome was an excellent idea. One of the things that I keep seeing every time I look at this is that it appears to me that I'm looking at a duck with the head and the bill at the top of the magnolia blossom. And the water drops add to the feeling of it being a duck. Nonetheless, it's a very cleverly done, and I like the sharpness and the way the photographer handled the depth of field. Let's keep this in.
Okay, number 6 is in. Number 7, sunflower bud.
A good thing that the photographer saw. I think that seeing this type of image and realizing that it could make a really wonderful photograph is quite a talent. I think the position of the sunflower is well done. I love the cropping and the fact that none of the portions of the sunflower that really matter move out of the frame. A couple of things that I think the photographer could consider. One would be the bright areas, particularly on the bottom left side of the photograph, are a bit distracting. Anytime there's a bright area, it will pull your eye away from any other portion of the image. I'd also like to see a little more saturation and perhaps even a little more light on the center of the sunflower. The orange is so beautiful that I'd like that to even dominate more than it does. Nicely seen and nicely done, and I think you could turn this into something that would be wall-worthy. But for now, let's take this one out.
Okay, number 7 is out. Number 8, Portland rose.
And a spectacular rose. The sharpness of the center of the rose is wonderful, and I think that the various what almost look like purple dots in the center of the rose, highlighted by the yellow behind them, those seem to be in excellent focus, as does the rest of the flower itself. I think including the slight areas of green behind the rose was a very good choice, and they're dark enough and far enough back that they don't distract at all. I'm not sure that this grabs me as an image that I'd like to continue looking at. It's almost like the reds and pinks, again, are a bit oversaturated. Even though they may be the natural color, I occasionally find that some of the images I take, I have to desaturate to make them realistic, or at least to make them so that people believe they're realistic. So I think it was an excellent idea to take this from the top down, and the depth of field was well chosen, but I think we'll take this one out.
Okay. Number 8 is out. Number 9.
And this one is beautifully sharp, and the wonderful petals of the flower pull your eyes straight into the middle, like just as though they're lines leading you to that beautiful green. The photographer did a magnificent job with the focus and retaining the texture both in the center and in the petals. I think that the cropping is good. I would like to have seen a little something in the background, nothing that would be distracting, but something to kind of give a bit of context so that I didn't just seem like I was looking at a disemboweled flower head. But I think that it's beautifully done, very well handled, and let's keep this in.
Okay, number 9 is in. Number 10, don't touch my baby.
And wow, this one I would not touch. This looks very foreboding. It almost gives me the willies looking at it. It's very appropriate as we're moving toward Halloween. I see an area that the photographer may want me to look at, which is the center where all of the white stems tend to come together. But I think this would be much improved if it had a nice vignette around the rest of the image to even further emphasize that center. Otherwise, there is so much going on that it's almost disturbing. I like the idea and what the photographer attempted, but I don't think this one quite works. So let's take this one out.
Okay, number 10 is out. Number 11, the king.
And the king is a magnificent blossom. The use of black and white on this works very well. I think the center of the flower being the brightest area just immediately pulls my eyes toward that. And then it's surrounded by the darker petals, which almost act as a frame or a prism looking inside through the flower. After looking at it for not long, I then noticed the round, what I assume is a bud that's directly below the flower, and I think that it was wise to include that. I'd like to see a little more space, particularly on the left of the flower. I find that it feels like it's pushed right up against the edge, even though there is a little space there. A little more, I think, would do wonders. Also, it would be good to be able to see a bit more texture in the very whitest blossoms. They look like they are almost blown out. And it would be good to be able to see some of the veins and portions of the petals that make it a really interesting flower. So let's take this one out.
Okay, 11 is out. Number 12, yellow and red.
Yeah, wow. The 5 red dots in the center of this flower are just wonderfully highlighted by the yellow of the rest of the petals. And then almost emphasized by the red center of the flower. I think this was extremely well seen. I like the cropping. It's a large flower, but it doesn't feel like it's pushed up directly against the edge, even though it's fairly close. Part of the reason for that is that it's more centered. If it were, if one edge were closer than the others, then that edge would seem like it was a little constrained. The colors in this may be a little bit oversaturated, a little bit bright, but I think that it's very nicely done. I think the depth of field was wonderfully handled, and let's keep this in.
Okay, number 12 is in. Number 13, first cherry blossom.
And I love this. I think this is beautifully done. The use of the vase and the particular choice of the branch of the cherry tree works so well together. And the lighting on this, I think, is magnificent. The lighting that especially appeals to me is that's on the vase, that it's a graduated light, but you can see, if you look closely, you can see all sides of the vase. The lights on the blossoms themselves, the brightness, they are not blown out, and the whole image is tack sharp. Nicely done. The only suggestion that I might have on this is that I'd like to see just a hint of a foundation for the vase to sit on. It could be something very, very minor, but it would be nice that if it didn't seem to almost float. But let's definitely keep this in.
Okay, number 13 is in. Number 14, Apines.
And the yellows and the greens are really spectacular together. And the photographer, again, did a nice job with the depth of field. I think the blossoms all seem to be tack sharp, as do the leaves in the foreground. And yet the photographer managed to blur the background and let the flowers stand out even more. That was well done. The pink background on the top right I find somewhat disturbing. It's quite bright, and the color doesn't really contribute to the beauty of the flower. One other thing that the photographer might want to consider is actually adding some contrast to this image. It feels just a bit flat, and that can easily be fixed in Lightroom or Photoshop or any of the other software products. But well seen and technically, in terms of taking the image, very nicely done. But let's take this one out.
Okay, number 14 is out. 15, BW flower 3.
And again, we've got an incredibly sharp flower, and the center of it with the little spikes sticking out really attests to the sharpness. The brilliant white of the flower is going to grab anyone's attention and eyes as they look at the picture. I did find that the stick, or whatever it is on the far right, I had a hard time trying to link that to the flower itself. I didn't know if that was some sort of stem or something else going on, but the fact that it's almost in focus, I found a bit disturbing. I'd also like to see some texture in the white petals. I think that it's probably, if the photograph was taken in raw format, you could probably pull out some nice lines leading down the petals toward the center of the flower. But well seen, and the sharpness of the flower is absolutely wonderful. But let's take this one out.
Okay, number 16 is tulips.
Very nice. inclusion of the tulips behind what's obviously the main tulip was very well conceived and very well handled. I think the position of the photographer as he took this image was excellent. The one thing you might have been able to do would be to get even a little bit lower and a little bit more to the left, and that green area, the green leaf to the bottom left of the main tulip, it would be nice if that weren't quite so dominant. But it's a very well done flower. It gives a feeling of a group of flowers, which is really nice. I would consider adding a bit more contrast to this. I think the main flower doesn't quite stand out enough from the background. You might even slightly darken the background, something else that's not difficult to do with the software products available now, so that the primary tulip was even more dominant. But it was very nicely done, and let's keep this in.
Okay, number 16 is in. Number 17, BW Flower 1.
Yeah, lotus blossoms are spectacular, and this is a wonderful rendition of them. I think that the idea of capturing the water, particularly on the center cone with the seed heads, was very, very well done. I like having this in a monochrome image. I've seen so many and taken so many color lotus blossoms that it's a bit different to get something in monochrome. And having the water, whether it's something the photographer sprayed or not, it still comes across as a rainy day on a beautiful flower. I would consider, if I were the photographer, perhaps cropping just a little tighter on the left and possibly moving that center cone so that it's not dead center to the whole image. It's something that I would, if I were doing it, I would have to play with it and see how that worked, because the area that I find that is a little distracting is the big dark black area on the top left. And I think removing a bit of that with a crop might be worthwhile, but this is very nicely done, both beautifully captured and post-processed. Let's keep this in.
Okay, number 17 is in. Number 18, sweet smelling.
And it's a beautiful moth. I think the sharpness of the moth and the color in the wings, is gorgeous. And I think the photographer captured it, and it becomes the dominant part of the image, even though the flowers are brilliantly colored. I did find it a bit distracting that the flowers did not seem to be sharp. All of the sharpness was on the moth, and that may have been appropriate if you were trying to capture a moth, and a viewer's eyes always move to both the brightest area and an area that's most in focus. So I keep going to the moth, which is very nice, and it's almost like I'm getting distracted by the flowers. But nicely done technically, but let's take this one out.
So number 18 is out. Number 19, pretty in pink.
And a spectacular rose. The shades of gray and almost a cream white in the center are very well done. I think the shapes and the curves of the petals of this rose, as is true with many roses, really is spectacular. It adds a huge amount of interest. Although I like what the photographer was doing in terms of playing with the background colors to complement the rose, I think the choice of a particularly bright pink was a bit distracting. I would consider playing with different background color, something perhaps darker and not quite as dramatic. I want to have my eyes focus just on the rose itself, and the surrounding area keeps pulling me away from it. So let's take this one out.
Okay, 19 is out. 20 is flower box.
And a beautiful flower box. I think this variety of flowers in the flower box, and flower boxes themselves are just gorgeous for photographers. The reds and the white in the center are nicely offset by the greens of the leaves, and I like the color of the flower box itself. I do find that the background above the flower box is quite bright and pretty distracting. I would suggest darkening that and perhaps reducing the saturation, and perhaps even cropping maybe halfway down from the very top of the frame to the top of the flower. Well seen in terms of noticing the flower box and how beautiful the flowers are. But let's take this one out.
Okay, number 20 is out. Number 21, another use for a wheelbarrow.
Very, very nice. And I agree, it's a perfect use for a wheelbarrow. I think the setting in this was well done. But what appealed to me most, and I thought was extremely well done in post-processing probably, was the cropping. I think this could have been a disaster if you'd cut off, say, the handles of the wheelbarrow. So that was well done, and the flowers themselves are absolutely gorgeous, and the wheelbarrow gives a very nice context. I did find that I thought some of the flowers, and perhaps even the grass and the green behind the wheelbarrow, might be a little bit oversaturated, and it might be possible to slightly darken the handles of the wheelbarrow itself. But I think this was a very nicely done image and well conceived. I suspect it was set up and it was worth the effort. Let's keep that in.
Okay, number 21 in. Number 22, blooming.
And there's something that really kind of grabs me when I see a rose that seems to be in its fading stage. And I think part of that is that you almost have a connection with it. It's like, wow, I can envision what this once looked like. And even now, the colors are different, they're changed, but they're still absolutely beautiful. I think the photographer was wise to do a rose in this stage instead of always going for the perfect, fresh 20-year-old rose. A couple of things that the photographer could consider. The rose petal on the left is actually a little bit close to the edge, but what I would like to do more than that is on the bottom right. Sort of behind the rose, it looks like there are some rose petals, particularly almost halfway up. There's a very, very bright yellow area. I would definitely darken that. I think that would leave my attention on the rose and the beauty of the curves of the petals. I do like the blue background that was chosen. I think that works well with this flower. Let's leave this in.
Okay, number 22 is in. Number 23, gerbera.
And wow, this makes me feel like I'm looking at fireworks taking off. I think this is just beautifully done, and it shows the type of creativity and imagination that I think makes a photograph a bit different from other photographs, and this photographer did that extremely well. The water on the flower really adds to the image. But what makes it really work, of course, is cutting off the flower and only showing part of it, but enough so that you absolutely can tell what you're looking at. The colors, and particularly the tones, the colors are very, very vibrant, but not so much so that they feel unnatural. So I like that very much, and I like the focus, which is sharp on most of the center. I do find that the petals on the left are not sharp, and frankly, that doesn't bother me in the least. But I would like it if the center of the flower on the left were sharp, which the photographer could probably have done by changing his camera angle a little bit, or having a smaller aperture when he took the image. But this was very well done and very clever. Let's keep this in.
Okay, 23 is in. Number 24, first bloom. First bloom of spring.
Beautiful iris, and I think the light shining on it and almost shining through the petals makes it stand out, including the buds on the right. The top right of the image was a very good choice, and also including the stem that's coming down from the main flower and then joining the other stem that leads up to the buds was an excellent choice in cropping. I'd like to have something that would perhaps slightly darken or reduce the saturation of the blurry leaves, or whatever the green is that's at the bottom third of the image behind the stem and the flower. But I think this was quite nicely done. The sharpness is wonderful, and the inclusion of the bud was nicely done. This would be a case that a bit more room to the right of the bud would have been advantageous. It's really right up against the edge, but it's definitely a well-handled flower, and let's keep it in.
Okay, 24 is in. 25, purple passion.
And nicely done. And this is another one that the center of the flower is so important, and the photographer made sure that the center was really in excellent focus. I can see a little bit of drop off in the back area of the center and some of those yellow petals coming out. But since the brilliant red in the very center and those gorgeous orange, let's call them things, sticking out are all quite sharp, really makes it work. The area to the right, I do wish that the petal on the left weren't cut off. There's that one petal that almost was included in the image, but not quite. That's kind of a shame. And the area on the right, I think you need something, but perhaps not quite so much. It might be worthwhile to consider both darkening that area in the bottom right corner as well as cropping just a bit of that right side off. But beautifully captured, and it's a gorgeous flower. Let's keep that in.
Okay, 25 is in. And our last image is fringed tulip, number 26.
And a nice depth of field on this. The sharpness of the tulip is excellent. I think having the foliage in the background blurry is an excellent choice. I keep wanting to look inside the tulip. It's captivating that way. This might benefit a little bit from a vignette that particularly darken that area just to the left of the tulip, right at the edge of the frame. I think that's a bit bright, and it would be trivial to darken that. I like the idea also of having the space above and to the left and right of the tulip bud, or flower rather. I'd like to have the stem of the tulip perhaps be even more dominant, but that doesn't really bother me. It just might be something that could add to a well-done image. So let's keep this in.
Okay. All right, John, you want to counter check with me? I have about 14, not a board, I have 14 images left in still. Does that match with your count? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so we have 14. We have to narrow that down to 7, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 honorable mentions.
Okay, and I can see numbers on them.
Yeah, so is that easiest for you to work with them this way?
Sure. How would you like me to do this? Should I eliminate first, I assume?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
Those numbers won't match with my numbers here, so I'll have to, John will keep me up to date.
All right. There we go. Let's take out number 3.
John, what, is that number 17?
Number 6. Saucer magnolia.
Saucer magnolia. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Number 1.
Okay.
3.
3.
Flowers in winter.
Good.
The last one, number 12.
Okay. French tulip.
Yes.
Number 10, the iris.
24.
Okay.
Number 10 again, that one.
25.
How many more? 2 more. Okay. Let's take out number 1.
Okay. Blue.
Number 5.
Okay.
And number 1 again.
Okay.
Number 9.
Top view. Okay. All right.
And do you want,
Let's do the, I think, again, we've 3 honorable mentions. Could start with that. You can start either end. What do you
right.
prefer?
so let's do honorable mentions, number 3.
Okay.
16.
Okay.
Number 1.
12.
Number 3, the wonderful wheelbarrow.
21.
Okay, that's 3 honorable mentions, and 1 through 4 now.
Okay. Number 1 is number 1.
13.
Number 2 is number 4.
17.
And the Black and White Lotus, number 4, is number 3.
You
I
just
thought
said
you
that.
just put the Black and White Lotus on number 4. I'm sorry. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, the one that is currently shown as number 3 should be 2,
Okay.
and then the White Lotus should be number 3, and the Rose is an honorable.
Okay.
Now, number 4 place.
4.
Oh, 4, okay. The Rose wins as number 4.
Okay.
So what are the corresponding numbers, John? The White Lotus is,
3rd.
3rd.
no, but it's number in
Okay.
the
Yeah.
next list.
It is 17.
Number 17 is,
That was second.
that's second. Is that second?
The top row is in the proper order.
Okay. Number 2, so then number 2 is a,
23 is is second place. Number 17 is
Okay.
3rd place. And number 22 is 4th place.
okay, I apologize. And the Black and White Flower is number 3.
Correct.
Okay. And the Rose, number 4. And I'm sorry, what's the master list number on that one?
Number 4 is number 22.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's honorable mention, number 21. Another use for wheelbarrow, and that's Kathleen Steele. Congratulations, Kathleen. Okay, number 16, tulips is, oh, hang on one second, please. Okay, the tulips come and the tulips go. Tulips number 16, that's Monique. Monique gets to go by her first name because I can't pronounce her last name yet. A couple more weeks, we'll be there. Okay. All right. Yellow and red, number 12. And that would be honorable mention to Russ Zachary. Congratulations, Russ. Okay. Number 22 is blooming. And that is our 4th place image, and that's Deborah Davis. Okay, coming down the home stretch. Number 3 is Black and White Flower Art, I'm sorry, BW Flower 1, and that's Ken Temple. Congratulations, Ken. And number 2 will be Gerbera, and that's Monique also. So 2nd place for that one.
Very nice.
And number 1 image, first cherry blossom. And here's somebody by the name of Monique again. I don't know what that is. Now, before we move from these, John, with the novices, keep in mind this is your digital contest. So if you didn't get a prize, but you have some honorable mention on down, honorable mention or unlimited, and you got some really good advice from Pete tonight, you may have an opportunity to go back and work on it again and either bring it back as a print in 2 weeks or bring it back in one of the open contests coming up.
Do we want to let people talk about their own?
Yes, absolutely.
Ron, before you do that.
Yeah.
What do we have for someone who's got all 3 entries won?
There is, let's see, what do you call that?
Trifecta. Okay,
Yeah.
since I know you won, Monique, I'm going to
Trying
let
to
you
call a
talk
ribbon.
about your 3 images first.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, the church is amazing. Not because you picked my images, but every image you commented on had got something that we can use. So even if they're not mine, I've got photos on my computer. I think, oh yeah, I can try that. I can do that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that was very good judging. Yeah. Well, the tulips are Dutch flowers. I love tulips. I am allergic to having them, so I can't have them. But yeah, I took this in the field. And then the Gerber was one of my practices for my course. This was a window light. I was trying to do depth of field. Didn't quite work on the left, but it's on the right. And the first one was trying out the flashlight, the speed light with the sight light in.
Very nice.
So yeah, I don't have many flowers on my computer, but these were a few of them.
Who was next?
Third place.
Ken?
Our lowest one.
We'll let Ken.
I took that photo at Callaway Gardens on a rainy morning.
Which one's Ken's?
3. And
place.
Black and white. That
I didn't have to spray it with glycerin and water. That's natural.
Very
Who
nice.
else is here? Anyone else here to talk
Russ is
about?
here. Russ is here.
Russ.
So this picture was actually taken at Longwood Gardens on one of the field trips, just a plug for the field trip crew. It was a few years ago, but I really liked the 5 circles against the serious texture of the yellow on this guy.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, very nice.
Nice square crop.
Yep.
And Kathleen. And Kathleen.
And I didn't think it mattered that it was square.
Yeah, surprisingly, I took that one. That was at a botanical garden in Iceland, believe it or not. No, not that. No, it was the wheelbarrow. Yeah. I cropped it as much as I could to make it just a pleasant image.
Now I remember why we like doing these contests in person, because we get some really good commentary back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you probably, since we,
Deborah Davis has some comments on hers, if
Okay.
you want me to read it.
Sure.
Sorry, she's online. Deborah Davis says, I brought rose from Walmart and shot it on my front porch.
excellent.
Very nice.
Excellent. Okay. All right, we have quite a few for this next round, so let's take a look at what that will be. Nice to start this early in the year with a tricolor ribbon. So that's great. Okay, bear with me 1 second here.
Ooh, you put the name up. Does that help you out?
That's the name and the number.
Yeah, the name and the number's up on the screen now.
And Ron, if it makes it easier, that microphone will come over here. If the light's easier for you to read that.
Yeah, I can read it. Okay, I'm just being stupid this evening. Okay, oh, I got all 3. All right, I want to make sure Pete knows what we're looking for. We have 61 images, which is a lot. So we'll have 1 through 4, and we'll have 6 honorable mentions. So got lots of work to do here. Okay. The first image is Cosmos in the Dark. Second image, a rose. Number 3, Nyman's flower. Number 4, blowing in the wind. Number 5, 3 flowers. Number 6, Biltmore orchids. Number 7, white lily. Number 8, tulips. Number 9, Spur of the Monet. Number 10, Pink Blossoms. Number 11, Floating. Number 12, Chartwell Orange. Number 13, Yellow Trillium. Number 14, Biltmore Lady Slipper. Number 15, Coneflower. Number 16, Spiritual Awakening.
Oh, there we go.
Number 17, Tulip Fading. Number 18, More African Daisies. Number 19, Quick Snack. Number 20, Lotus Bud and Hemlock Embrace. Number 21, Tulip Bud. Number 22, Painted Rose. 23, Water Lily. 24, Elephant. 25, Dahlia. 26, Sea Flower Arrangement. 27, Lily Pad. Or 28, Delicate. 29, Kissed by a Dragonfly. 30, Artichoke is a Flower. 31, Hydrangea Ring. 32, For Love of Symmetry. 33, Elegant White. 34, Wheat and Bachelor Buttons. 35, Flower Center. 36, A Splash of Purple. 37, Alstramira Reflections. 38, Rhodo Floating in a Bowl. 39, Grace and Elegance. 40, Lily. 41, For My Love. 42, Googly Eyes. 43, Rose. 44, Magnolia. 45, The Last of the Sun on the Sundowners. Sunflowers, I'm sorry. Number 46, Sea Rose. 47, Something a Bit Different. 48, Bouquet Duo. 49, African Daisies. 50, My Sunshine. 51, Purple Star. 52, White Beauty. 53, Easter Lilies. 54, Lotus. 55, Lunch at the Great Blue Lobelia. 56, Reach for the Sky. 47, Bluebells. 57. 58, Bee Balm. 59, Radiant Pod. 60, Magenta Dahlia. And our last image, number 61, is Summer Breeze. So I'm glad you're doing this and I'm not tonight. So we got 6 honorable mentions plus 4 places. That gives you a total of 10 to target for.
Well, I'd like to say a bit more on the novice category, which is fortunate because we simply don't have time to say a lot on the advanced. And besides, I'm from the South, and so I naturally talk slowly. So this, I think, is really nicely done. The brilliance of the flower, particularly the center, is magnificent and immediately grabs my attention. I think this could have been what some people would have said, it's another flower picture, except for the inclusion of the stems with the buds on the end. I think that was really nicely added. Let's leave this in.
Okay, number 1 is N.
And this makes me feel like I have almost an intimate relationship with this flower that just disappeared and came back. And I think the focus on this is so nicely handled. It just draws my attention along these gorgeous curves right toward the center. You might consider cropping just a touch more on the left, but I think that it's a gorgeous image, and let's leave it in.
Okay, number 2 is N.
And another spectacular image. This one has the gorgeous, subtle colors that just sort of go throughout the entire image, with not just the purples but the yellows that are with it, and sort of a cream white. I would have cropped a little bit, particularly on the top or the right. There's just a touch of green up there that, since all the rest of the image is of generally one set of colors, the green is a bit distractive. But I think the focus on the center and the subtleness of the colors, and it's not oversaturated, it feels very natural, beautifully done. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 3 is N. Number 4.
I like the idea of what the photographer was doing with this, to give a feeling of motion, a feeling of activity. It almost works, but for me it didn't quite make it, because I found it a little confusing below the blossom itself. It was hard to actually feel what was going on. I suggest continuing to experiment with this, but let's take this one out.
Okay, number 4 is out. Number 6, no, I'm sorry, number 5.
Beautiful flowers and beautiful background. I don't know where you found these flowers, but they are spectacular. And I think the sharpness of the image is showing a depth of field that even includes the leaves in the background. And the leaves are present, but not at all distracting. Even though they're sharp, they're significantly darker and less intense in color than the flowers themselves. Let's leave this in.
Okay, number 5 is N. Number 6.
I love Biltmore, and it's a spectacular place, and the orchids are really wonderful. I found that this image, though, sort of bothered me. It was like they were crowded together, and I wanted to focus on one image, and yet it almost looked like twins, that we only picked the one on the left that we wanted to have in focus and bright. Let's take this one out.
Okay, number 6 is out. Number 7.
And very, very interesting playing with the colors on this. I love the angle and the fact that the flower is looking down toward the bottom of the frame, and the The center of the flower is absolutely perfectly sharp, very creative. I might consider cropping just a tad bit at the bottom. I think that you cropped the blossoms on the left side of the frame and the top, and that looks fine. That works quite nicely. You might even crop just a little more on the top so that you could crop a little on the bottom. The idea being that dark green on the bottom left corner and the top right corner don't really add, they almost detract, but it's a gorgeous picture and quite unique. Let's keep it in.
Okay, number 7 is in. Number 8.
I like the idea of 3, as I think we all know, an odd number of components in an image for some reason is more appealing to the viewer. And this is well chosen, and I like the fact that we have a bit of a diagonal line running from the top left to the bottom right as we draw a line through the center of the tulips. The frame is well chosen. It doesn't say a great deal to me. Once I've seen this, I don't feel compelled to go back and look at it again. It's well done, but I think we'll take this out.
Okay, number 8 is out. Number 9.
And yeah, it does look like Monet. I like the angle that the photographer used for this and the fact that all of the petals are included in the frame, and it looks like it's shooting fire up toward the top left. And because of the direction of the center and the lines of the flower, you needed to leave that room that you left above it. It's kind of like if you have a person walking in an image, you need to leave room in front of them. The same holds true with flowers. I think this is quite nicely done. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 9 is in. Number 10.
Beautiful magnolia blossom shot. I think the colors in this are just gorgeously handled. The pinks feel real, and the yellow down below the pinks, and even the whites of the stem where the flowers are coming from are absolutely nicely done. The flower is close to the edge, but it doesn't bother me on this. The meat of the image is right at the center, and those shapes, it almost looks like it's exploding or reaching up with its fingers. I would consider darkening the background a bit, particularly the bottom left and perhaps the far right, to allow the blossom to stand out even more, but let's keep it in.
Okay, number 10 is in. Number 11.
And floating it is. I think the sharpness, the colors, and the amazing flower really work well together. I think this could be improved a little if I could get some sense of a background. Nothing that was at all dramatic or even interesting, but just something to give context. Of course, that would change the name of the image from floating. This one does appear to float. Nicely done, nicely seen. I like the angle, taking it from above. Well done. Let's keep it in.
Okay, number 11 is in. Number 12.
This one is such a great idea. The water on this really works, and the droplets are sharp, and you can almost see images in the droplets themselves of more flowers. I do find that the yellow petals at the bottom are distracting for me. They seem brighter and more intense than the center of the flower itself, which is where I think the photographer wants us to focus on. A really great idea, but I think we'll take this out.
Okay, number 12 was out. Number 13.
And I like this a lot. It's unfortunately it's not a flower, so we can't include it in any of the awards. But the shape of the three petals is really well done together. I not just like the three yellow leaves, but the three green leaves that are coming out from the center as well. I think this is an excellent image, and you might consider re-entering it in a more open contest.
Okay.
Next, please. Oh, we'll take that out.
Okay. Number 14.
And yeah, the lady slipper is such an interesting orchid. And I like this. I like the fact that we're highlighting the slipper itself, and the interesting parts of this orchid are exactly what you showed, with that strange looking center just above the slipper. I find the background in this a little too bright. I find it distracting because it has a bit more contrast than I would like, with all of the dotted foliage behind it. That sort of competes with the dots on the orchid petals itself. So I think we'll take this out.
Okay, number 14 is out. 15.
The center of cornflowers are just amazing, and I've taken very similar pictures myself. I think the interest in the cornflower is exactly what you captured here. I don't see it as something that says much. It's quite interesting, but in terms of being attractive or wanting me to continue looking at it or return to look at it, I don't think it quite achieves that. So let's take this out.
Okay, number 15 is out. Number 16.
Another beautiful lotus blossom. This one is, to me, I like the title, I like the concept of awakening. I do think that the center of the blossom should be significantly brighter and perhaps slightly more saturated. The yellow centers of lotus blossoms really are what grab one's attention. And I think the brightness on the petals themselves keep that from happening with this one. So let's take this out.
Okay, 16 is out. Number 17.
Interesting tulip. The fact that we have the center, the black areas, I'm not sure what they're called, coming up, adds a lot of interest. And the angles, the shapes, the curves of the petals are really appealing. I find the background, particularly on the bottom, the bright areas are distracting. I'd like to see the background as a whole darken somewhat and those bright areas darken significantly. But I think it's a really imaginative angle of a fascinating flower. But we'll take this out.
Okay, number 17 is out. Number 18.
And again, we have the use of odd numbers of items in an image. And again, we have the diagonal line, which adds a little bit of dynamic feel to a photograph. So I think the photographer had an excellent idea in this. The flower pot on the right side, I think I would get rid of that, crop it out or darken it, or in some way make it so that you don't notice it. You could even slightly crop farther on the right side. Nice idea and nicely done from the camera side. I think the sharpness of the three flowers is attributing to the perpendicular area of the camera, which the photographer was clearly aware of, but we'll take this out.
Okay, 18 is out, number 19.
Wow, I feel like he's about to come at me. A rather dynamic picture, filled with action for something that's quite static. The eyes on the, I'm assuming butterfly or moth, really kind of stand out in this. The flower itself is bright enough and colorful enough that it pulls some of the attention from the butterfly, which I think is actually good in this case. Let's leave this in.
Okay.
And this was, when I saw this, it made me think of a mother swaddling a baby for some reason. But the colors of the lotus blossom or bud are so nicely subtle as the purple at the tip and the green. But I think what really made this for me is the fact that the photographer left the texture in on the petals, the backs of the petals, so that we see all the lines leading up to that beautiful purple. I might have even brightened the purple area since all the lines are pulling my eyes up to that spot. Having the hemlock there gives it a cozy feeling. I thought that was a wise choice. I don't know if this was staged or found, but it was nicely done. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 20 is in, or 21.
Wow. I saw this and I felt like I was in surgery. It's really clever. It's beautifully done. The colors are magnificent, and the depth of field in this is exactly what it needs to be, because the colors are so pervasive in this image that if there weren't only one sharp area, you wouldn't know where to look, and your eyes would not appreciate the center of this tulip. I think this was very well done, very well thought of, and let's leave it in.
Okay, number 21 is in. 22.
And I like playing with filters, and I assume that's what the photographer did here. I like the effect of the lines that are moving up along the petals. Frankly, the lines that were created that are going horizontally across the bottom of the tulip, or rose, I'm sorry, don't seem to fit quite right. So I think it was a good idea, and I like the idea of playing with filters and seeing what you can come up with, but I think we'll take this one out.
Okay, number 22 is out. 23.
And water lily and the reflection was well done. I think you really needed that as part of this image. I do find the center of the water lily a bit bright, and perhaps it almost looks like it's not quite focused in the center, but that could just be because you could give it a little more contrast and perhaps some texture to bring out the yellow and have those stand out. I also would consider darkening some of the lily pads. They need to be included so that we have a full feeling for what we're looking at, but they don't need to be quite as bright to take away from the lily and its reflection. So let's take this out.
Okay, 23 is out. 24.
And I have to admit, when I look at this, the first thing I don't see is elephant. But I'll take your word for it. It's very clever. I kept wondering if it would work even better if the yellow portions of the flowers that are so dominant in this image, if they were sharp. It looks like the sharpness is really back toward the center of the flower. It's an intriguing image and one that I could study, but not necessarily one I could live with. I think I would need something to really anchor it, and the yellow portion is what I would want to be able to focus on. Let's take this out.
Okay, 24 is out. Number 25.
Wow, an explosion. Yeah, the colors and all of the lines and patterns in the petals on this are just amazing. And I love how all of the petals in the center are coming together like they're clutching something in the center. It would be interesting to see how this would look even with an even tighter crop, slightly tighter, but I like what the photographer did with it at this level. So let's keep this in.
Okay, 25 is in, or 26.
And it's a nice arrangement. It's a case, I like the yellow reed that's coming up and reaching out toward the top right corner. I think that adds a great deal. And the bud that's peeking out on the left side gives it a nice balance. I would like the flower, the pink flower that's almost in the center. It's probably the brightest of the flowers, and it would be nice to see it with more saturation and perhaps even a little less bright, as well as the flower that's most to the bottom right, that's hanging down. Those seem a bit bright and not quite saturated to make it feel like a balanced color arrangement. Also, it would be, I like the idea of seeing a little more of the vase so that I have a sense for what they're sitting in. Let's take this out.
Okay, 26 is out. Number 27.
And this looks like Longwood Gardens. I think that this was a beautiful shot, and I like the composition. The depth of field is wonderful to show the two lily pads, and their sharpness is just brilliant. The reflection, particularly of the large one, really works nicely, and there's even just a touch of separation or almost separation between the two lily pads. Unfortunately, it's not a flower image, so I think we can't consider it for one of the awards, but I do like it a great deal. Next.
Is that in or out?
It has to be out, since it's not a flower.
28.
This one hit me as modern art, something that if you go downtown, you see a painting that looks like this, and it sells for something like $2 million. And you think, damn, I could have done that. But I like the idea very much. I do find that it's a little overwhelming. I'd like to see this if it were done as a soft pastel. I think that could be quite intriguing and much easier to keep looking at. This one almost makes me start sweating with its heat. Very clever idea, and I really encourage you to keep playing with this concept, but let's take it out.
Okay, 28 is out. 29.
Yeah, gorgeous. The dragonfly and the flower, beautifully sharp. I love lace wings and how you can see them and almost feel them moving, particularly the one in the distance, and that the depth of field has the wing in the distance being out of focus, which works to give the whole image depth, which I like. The background is beautifully handled, and the flare in the top right corner, I think, actually works for this image. Let's leave this in.
Okay, 29 is in. Number 30.
Beautiful, beautiful colors and textures in this. And of course, the shapes of the artichoke petals are intriguing. Triangles make just wonderful images. I would consider cropping this just a touch off on the right. The left side, we don't see the entire artichoke on the left or the top or the bottom for that matter. I think we could do the same on the right side and eliminate that black area on the upper right corner or right side. But a very nicely done image. And I think the technical aspects of it are well handled. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 30 is in. 31.
An interesting view. When I saw this, I really felt like, wow, I wish I liked it. I struggled to like it. I think that what bothered me was the image didn't seem to say a great deal, although the center portion was very attractive. The background I found somewhat disturbing. It was too visible and looked too much like dirt that had no real appeal to it. Possibly also you could have added a bit of saturation to the petals of the hydrangea. So let's take this one out.
Okay, 31 out. 32.
And I like the idea of doing the reflection of the image, flipping it with a horizontal flip. It makes for quite an interesting single flower when you first look at it. And then as you study it further and realize, oh, yes, it's not quite that, but it's very nicely done. I think that the lines of the leaves on the sides leading up do a great deal to help this image. I like how they start at the bottom right and left corners and then pull your eye up through the frame. Well conceived. Let's leave this in.
Okay, 32 is in. Number 33.
And another very clever image. The perspective and the nearness, a close-up or even a macro on this, shows the seeds in the center, and I like how their dark brown color is offset by the yellow that's directly below them. And then the petals being so soft give it a complete feeling of something you really would like to smell, hold, feel. Quite an appealing image. Let's leave it in.
Okay, that's number 33 is in. Number 34.
And it's wheat and bachelor buttons is such a strange combination. I like the idea of this. I would like, however, to have it so that the top was cropped and I didn't see just the bare grass area or wheat area, whatever that is behind the bachelor buttons. I like having the focus being so sharp on the wheat in the foreground, and the blue of the flowers becomes almost a sea of blue riding on top of the wheat. I think that idea is quite nice. But let's take this one out.
Okay, that's 34 is out. 35.
And a gorgeous center with this beautiful color of the orange with the tiny yellow stems leading to the orange from the green center. The close-up aspect of this works quite nicely. I could even see it much closer and perhaps not even have the center of the flower be centered in the frame. I'd like to see this with a little more contrast. I think it's almost a bit flat, and some carefully done contrast could add a great deal to this. But let's keep this in.
Okay, 35 is in. Number 36.
And an excellent idea with this, with the stained glass window, but the position of the window makes the flower and the window seem almost jumbled to me. I like the idea. I really like the flow of the flower as it moves from the bottom and curves up to the right and toward the top. But the stained glass window behind it doesn't quite do it for me. So let's take this out.
Okay, 36 is out. Number 37.
And interesting, I assume this is lying on a mirror or something that's reflective and showing what almost looks like a continuation of the flower in this case. It's an interesting way to look at this. I find it appealing in many ways. I'd like to have the lighting be a bit more imaginative. It's almost flat light on the flowers, and it would be interesting to see it with some focused light, to have even a little bit of shadow within the flower itself. Let's keep this in.
Okay, number 37 is in. Number 38.
And a splash of color. The colors in this and the focus on the flowers themselves is nicely handled. I find that I don't know quite where I'm supposed to keep looking, and my eyes keep moving all around, sometimes pulled by the orange gold that seems to be behind the flowers, and sometimes by the flowers themselves. I think this is an image that perhaps with some playing with the lighting, you could pull the viewer's eyes toward that flower in the center a bit more. Let's take this out.
Okay, number 38 out. Number 39.
And a beautiful center of the rose, and I think Grace and Elegance is a well-chosen title. The curves in the petals on a rose I've always found just absolutely fascinating. It's a beautiful texture in this image, and the focus is nicely done. All of the parts that need to be sharp are sharp, and as you move out particularly on the left side and somewhat on the top, you get a little depth of field, a little blur in the background, which actually just gives more dimension to the photograph. Let's keep this in.
Okay, 39 is in. Number 40.
Beautiful lighting on this. I think the photographer who did this really knew how to handle lighting. The fact that we can actually see some light coming through the petal on the left side, and then that light is still shining on the center of the flower is just really nicely done. You might want to just slightly darken the inside of the petal on the bottom. Since to me the image is the center of the flower and the beautiful lighting that you've managed to capture. So keep this in.
Okay, number 40 is in. Number 41.
And when I saw this, I kept thinking of people having a wonderful time dancing on the streets in Mexico. I don't know why, but it just grabs me that way with the vibrant colors. The sharpness is everywhere in this. In fact, it's so sharp that it almost is hard to continue looking at because you aren't sure which part you want to keep looking at. I love the reflection on the bottom, and the particular area that the flower itself takes in the photograph. It looks almost like a panorama. Nicely done, and leave it in, please.
Okay, number 41 is in. 42.
And the googly eyes. It's cleverly named, and I see the eyes indeed. I think that the bright background in this is competing with the center, which that yellow center is, to me, something that you would want to have stand out as the primary focal point of this photograph. And the brilliant white or cream-colored background keeps pulling my eyes away from that center with the googly eyes. So let's take it out.
Okay, number 49 is out. Number 43.
And this image, I really love the tones that the photographer did. It has such a nice gradual change of tones from almost white to almost black. And I think that adds a great deal to this image. I think having this in color it would not be particularly exciting. It would just be another picture of a beautiful rose. But the photographer made it a bit different, and I think that's excellent. Let's leave it in.
Okay, 43 is in. Number 44.
Yeah, this is such an amazing flower. And the photographer saw this and captured it with the background of the petal. It almost looks like that theater and for music that they have. Where is that? Can't recall the name right now, but the image itself with the red leading up to the curled yellow in the center of the flower is just beautiful. I would consider, as the photographer, adding a little more contrast and perhaps just a tiny bit of saturation to the yellow center. I think adding some contrast and maybe a little bit of texture would let each of those small stems stand out almost on their own. But beautifully done. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 44 is in. Number 45.
The parts of this that really appealed to me were the combination of the sunflowers and the mist. And I think that was an excellent idea. I kept getting bothered by what appears to be a chain link fence in the background. It runs horizontally through almost the entire image right at the center. If there were a way to eliminate that, I think it would do wonders for this photograph. but the seeing the fog and the mist and juxtaposing that with the sunflowers was a wonderful idea. Let's take this out.
And 45 is out. Number 46.
And this is a beautiful rose, and I think it was well done in terms of capturing the rose and the delicate colors and the curves of the petals. It is well done, but to me it doesn't go beyond being a beautiful picture of a flower. It doesn't have anything that makes it particularly different and wouldn't hold my interest for a very long time. So nicely taken, but I think we'll take it out.
Okay, 46 is out. Number 47.
This feels appropriate for Halloween coming up. I think the black rose in the center kind of says it all. A clever arrangement, and it is definitely something a bit different. I like this, and I want to leave it in, even though I don't think I could live with it. But it's nicely done and shows a great deal of imagination and creativity. So let's leave that in.
Okay, 47 is in. Number 48.
The colors go very nicely together in this, and the petals. I like having the two different shapes of petals. I think that adds a little bit to show a little variety in the flowers. The background with what appears to be a fence or a support of some type, I find quite distracting. I also would like to see something either as a different angle or something that made it unusual. So it's well done, but let's take it out.
Okay, 48 is out. Number 49.
And if you can't have an odd number of 3, let's have an odd number of 5, and that's what works here. And this one I like. I like the position of the flowers. I like the amount of foliage that the photographer left in and how the photographer darkened the background, which really is not very appealing, and I think it's appropriately not distracting. I would suggest removing a bit of the saturation in the green leaves. They look almost unnaturally saturated. I could believe the saturation in the flowers themselves, but the leaves seem like they're a little bit overdone. But let's leave this one in.
Okay, 49 is in. Number 50.
And a great angle for this. I think the photographer positioned the stem coming into the base of the flower just perfectly. It leads one because it's different from the entire rest of the image. It's what you see at first, and then your eyes move up and follow the lines of the petals and the colors. Very nicely done. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 50 is in. 51.
And I like this flower. In fact, I like it so much that I grow them. It's a nice image. I don't think that it says a great deal, and I think the background is a bit bright, but the image of the flower itself is quite well done, with the texture showing the veins in the petals, and the white in the center isn't blown out, which is not that simple to do. So I think the photographer did a good job, but I think we'll take it out.
Okay, number 52 next.
And the angle of this works really well for me. I like the sweeping down from the top left corner. And you can see the stem or branch that the flower is growing from. And that's actually nice. It gives a sort of a foundation to the flower, and it follows the curve of the center of the flower as it curves out toward the right side. The colors in the center are really quite beautiful, and the petals, though they're white, are not blown out, and we see texture in them. The background, which looks like it would really be not very appealing if we could see it, we fortunately barely see it at all, so I think that's well handled. Let's leave this in.
Okay, and 52 is in. 53.
And this is a case that the stained glass windows work well. They are not intermingled with the flowers themselves. The Easter lilies are appropriately singing toward the stained glass windows. I think that's quite nice. I'm not sure what I would do if I were the photographer with the bottom left. That's a large area that has very little going on in it. And clearly there wasn't much the photographer could do with that. But it's well captured, well seen, and shows a good imagination. Let's leave it in.
Okay, 53 is in. 54.
And I love the angle that the photographer used on this, and the sharpness of the center is just magnificent. I think that cropping off on the left works absolutely perfectly, and I have done a lot of lotus blossoms myself, and there is the temptation to add a bit more yellow by adding the saturation to the inner parts of the petals. And whether that was done or not, I certainly don't know, but I think it works here. I like this a great deal. Let's leave it in.
Okay, 54 is in. 55.
And this moth or butterfly, for some reason, it makes me uncomfortable that it's vertical. I think one just doesn't see that very often, and it keeps pulling my eyes toward it because of its unusual position. And I wanted to have my eyes look at the flower, which is really beautiful. The background in this is a little bright. It's nicely blurred, which helps the main flower stand out, but still a bit bright. It would be nice to have the background a bit darker. Let's take this one out.
Okay, 55 is out. 56.
Good idea. I think having a sky like that, and this photographer took advantage of it. Very well done. This is a kind of image that I would love to take if I could stand up after I got down that low. But I would be tempted to crop just a bit of the sky. I think the sky is gorgeous and really kind of complements the flowers themselves, but there's almost too much of it. Let's take this out.
Okay, number 56 out. 57.
And bluebells, the idea of doing this as a monochrome is excellent. I think monochrome is a good way to go for flowers of this type. It makes them a bit different. A couple of things bother me a bit about this. The main one being that the flowers at the bottom, I'd really like to see the bottom of the petals. They're cut off by the frame, which doesn't feel like they should be. If you're going to include that much of the flower, I think you should include all of it. Alternatively, it would have been feasible to crop significantly from the bottom and just highlight the one flower that's in the top left side of the image. Let's take this out.
Okay, 57 is out. Number 58.
Wow, such a spectacular photograph. The colors, the texture, the position of the petals and leaves is just astounding on this. I love the fact that the leaves or petals that are in the background are slightly blurry with depth of field, and that the sharpness of the image is so good that you can actually see the spider webs in the center of the flower. Very nicely done on that. I'd like to see if the photographer could do something other than mostly a gray background. I think that this image has a lot of potential to have a very, very soft, subtle color in the background and perhaps even darkening it a little bit. But it's a spectacular photograph. Let's leave it in.
Okay, number 58 is in. 59.
And positioning the lotus seed head in front of one of the leaves was very clever. I like that idea. It really does make it feel like a radiant pod, like the name says. I think the photographer was not just clever, but really had a good eye to see this. The position of the stem of the pod is excellent. It comes up almost from the bottom right corner and leads us up to the pod itself, and then the radial veins on the leaf pull your eye into the pod even more. I think the image could be improved a little bit by adding some texture to the yellow portions of the pod, but I think the photographer did an excellent job as it is. Let's leave it in.
Okay, 59 is in. Number 60.
Beautiful flower, and the colors are spectacular. I think the image itself, to me, is a nice image of a beautiful flower, but doesn't say much more. I don't see, beyond excellent technical work, I'm looking for some creativity here. I don't see it, even though it's a very well-shot flower. Let's take it out.
60 is out, and this is our last and final 61.
Oh, do we have to quit? Oh, I think I love the feeling of wind in this. The photographer had a great imagination and pulled it off beautifully with the post-processing. At least I assume it's done in post. The stem coming up from the bottom right with that graceful curve is very, very nice. And even though the background is somewhat bright, I think it works with this image because the flower itself is so white. So let's leave this in.
Okay. John, see if we can get our counts matched up there between the two of us.
$32.
$32 it is.
And how many do we need to eliminate?
21.
21.
22.
22, yeah.
Do I hear 20? No. Okay, so let's...
Do you want to do, you can do this a couple ways. You can do another run through the whole thing, or you can just call off the numbers.
let me just go through.
Okay.
Let's drop number 4.
Number 5.
Okay.
Number, what is now 7?
11.
Okay.
Number 13.
32.
Number 14.
35.
Number 18.
43.
Number 20.
49.
Number 26.
61.
Number 13.
33.
Number 7.
19.
Number 17.
47.
Number 9.
25.
And let's take a breath and count. How many more?
11 more.
11 more.
Oh my God.
Okay.
You can also pull your place winners. And we can
Okay.
just drop the rest off.
Well, okay. Let me keep going this way. Number 3 and 4.
Number 3. Number 7.
Number 12.
41.
Number 9.
37.
7 more.
Whew. Well, they're getting bigger, that helps.
That helps.
Number 13.
52.
Number 13 again.
53.
Number 5.
20.
Number 3.
9.
And now what are we down to?
3.
3 more. Okay, number 7.
39.
Number 5.
29.
1 more.
Okay. Number 11.
59.
First through 4.
Okay, number first. Number 10.
Okay. John, which one's that?
That is 58.
Second is number 9.
50.
Third is number 10.
54.
And fourth is number 6. Oops, I'm sorry, it moved. Number 7.
21.
Okay. Okay, I think I mismarked a couple here. Three, 4, 5. All right, there's one more here, so I'm hiding.
How about I give you the
here we
numbers
go.
descending and you can read them out.
Okay, I'll see if mine match up. I think I've got it finally. All right. All right, number 44 is Magnolia, and that was honorable mention Julie Bennett. And Julie's not here this evening to defend herself. And number 40 is Lily, and that's Fred Venetia. Congratulations, Fred. Honorable mention.
Beautiful.
That was shot with a speed light and speed light.
Okay, interesting.
Okay. Beautiful.
Fred, can you repeat that for the people online?
Yes, it was shot with a speed light with a snoot and took the grid off top of the snoot, just straight on it.
Okay. All right, number 30. Artichoke is a flower. That was Susan Weber, honorable mention. Congratulations, Susan.
That was taken with a cell phone, and it was in the gardens at Chartwell, which is Churchill's estate in England.
Nicely done.
Okay. Number 10, Pink Blossom, and that's congratulations, honorable mention to Louis Sapienza. Okay, number 2 is a rose, and that was my image, Ron Pfeiffer. That was shot in my kitchen.
Very pretty.
Okay, number 1, Cosmos in the Dark, and that's Diane Vatcher. Congratulations.
That was shot on a rainy night before the rain came. Actually, it's black sky and no speed lights, just general light.
Okay, nice. Okay, number 21, Tulip Bud, and that's our 4th place image, and Christine Milliker. Congratulations, Christine.
This was shot at Brookside Gardens, not this past spring, but the spring before that when I took my niece out photographing.
Okay, this is our third place image. It's entitled Lotus, and the photographer is Greg Hockel. Okay. And this is number 50, our second place image. My Sunshine, J.C. Williams.
Yeah, it's just what it said it is. It was shot on a sunny day at Kinder Farm Park. And I was just shooting, and I said, well, I want to do something different. I want to shoot the back of the flower instead of the front of the flower. And that's how it came out. Well, a little bit of Photoshop, to sharpen it up and everything.
Very nice.
Okay, the number 58 is our first place image this evening, B-Bomb Bud, and that one is Kathy Hockel. Congratulations, Kathy. Wow, I never thought we could make it through all those. That was a lot of pictures, and tough to sort through those, Pete. So, yeah, congratulations.
Aren't too terribly late.
No, we aren't terribly late, and just a tremendous amount of information, so thank you for that. That's great, informative, instructive evening. John,
Oh, come on over here, turn this light on, hit the button, try to move us over to the camera. Oh, the ObsBot slept. Oh, well, congratulations to all of our winners. Anybody that was online that didn't get a chance to speak about your images, please share them to the Facebook group and send us, and then comment on them as well. Don't forget, next week is an amazing program by our own Ryan Maurer on cave photography. He posted one today that was it just blew my mind, so don't miss that one. The 21st is Saturday to the field trip to the Fire Museum and a lantern night. 26 is contest color and monochrome prints for these flowers, themed flower as well. So take all the judges' criticism to that and comments and print them out and bring them back, and hopefully you'll do a lot better. Thank you so much to our judge. Thank you to our contest chair. And with that, we'll end tonight. See you all next week.
all right.